In the world of drug cartels and organized crime, loyalty is everything. This is especially true for Emma Coronel Azpuro, the wife of notorious drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Emma has stood by her husband through thick and thin, even during his high-profile trial and imprisonment. But Emma's not just a devoted wife. She's also made a name for herself in the world of social media, sharing glimpses of her glamorous lifestyle and elevating awareness for her husband's case. Imagine standing by your husband's side as he faces a lifetime in prison. That's exactly what Emma Coronel did for El Chapo. In this video, we'll uncover the many facets of Emma's public persona, from her extravagant lifestyle to her tireless efforts to secure her husband's release. Stay tuned to learn more about Emma Coronel, her controversial relationship with El Chapo, and her captivating social media presence. Born on July 3, 1989 in San Francisco, California, United States, Emma Coronel Azpuro grew up in a relatively affluent environment and attended high school in California before moving to Mexico. Her father remained a high-ranking member of the Sinaloa cartel, one of Mexico's largest drug trafficking organizations. Emma spent most of her childhood in Mexico and grew up in a life of privilege and luxury thanks to her father's criminal wealth. In her early 20s, Emma became a beauty queen. She was acknowledged for her physical charm when she claimed the Coffee and Guava Queen beauty pageant title. Little did she know that this particular event would have a profound impact on her life, as it was where she first crossed paths with her future husband, El Chapo, who was already an infamous drug dealer at the age of 46. The question that remains unanswered about Emma is whether she was captivated by El Chapo's charm upon first sight, or if it was the presence of another gunman in the building that made her surrender to him. This never-ending enigma raises the possibility that Emma's life may be defined by either love or fear, or possibly a blend of both. Their wedding took place on her 18th birthday, in a lavish ceremony in the mountains of Sinaloa, Mexico, where El Chapo was born. El Chapo's personal life was often just as complicated and dangerous as his criminal lifestyle. His relationships with women were marked by secrecy and danger, and his wives and mistresses often found themselves in legal trouble as a result of their involvement with him. Emma Coronel may have been the most famous of El Chapo's wives, but his personal life was far more complex. Although Emma Coronel is El Chapo's wife, she's not his first. El Chapo had been married twice before and had several other romantic relationships with other women throughout his life. His first wife is Alejandrina Maria Salazar Hernandez. They got married in the early 1970s and had 3 children together. His second marriage was to Griselda Lopez Perez. They were married in the late 1970s and had 4 children together. In addition to El Chapo's marriages, one of his most well-known mistresses was Zulema Hernandez, a former police officer who was also involved in his drug trafficking activities. Hernandez was arrested along with El Chapo in 1993 and spent time in prison. In 2015, Emma played a role in El Chapo's escape from prison. She is alleged to have helped in the construction of a tunnel that allowed El Chapo to escape from the maximum security Altiplano prison in Mexico. She's been accused of facilitating communication between El Chapo and his associates. In court documents, it was alleged that she acted as a source for El Chapo and his lieutenants to pass messages and instructions between them. However, Emma has kept that she was not involved in any criminal activities and was simply supporting her husband. During El Chapo's trial in 2019 in New York City, Emma was present in court almost every day, and her presence gathered a lot of media attention. She was often seen wearing designer clothing and high heels, and was known to be very vocal in support of her husband. She frequently posted updates on her social media accounts, including Instagram and Twitter, about the trial and her husband's case. After El Chapo's conviction, Emma Coronel Azpuro continued to make public comments about her husband's case. She expressed her disappointment with the verdict and kept her support for her husband. She also criticized the United States justice system and claimed that her husband had been unfairly targeted and treated. El Chapo's former right-hand man, Damaso Lopez Nunez, provided testimony indicating that Emma and El Chapo's sons played a significant role in the bold prison escape that occurred in 2015. According to Lopez's testimony, the group purchased land near the prison, procured weapons, arranged for an armored truck, and even had a GPS wristwatch smuggled into El Chapo Guzman's cell. This enabled the engineers digging the tunnel to have precise jail cell coordinates, making their escape plan more effective. During his trial, whenever El Chapo entered the court, he made a point of seeking out Emma Coronel and waving to her, although they were not allowed to speak to each other. Their nonverbal communication and glances at each other caught the attention of the media and created a stir in the courtroom. According to journalist Miguel Angel Vega, who covered the trial for the Rio Doce newspaper in Sinaloa, the silent exchange between the couple was reminiscent of a love story, despite the fact that they could not communicate verbally.
Desde que tú llegas, se le ilumina la cara al Chapo. Es algo que nunca habíamos visto los periodistas cuando vimos las audiencias, pero cuando tú entras a corte, se le ilumina la cara. Te saluda. ¿Qué sientes en ese momento cuando lo ves de esa manera?
No, pues muy contenta de que a pesar de la situación en la que está pasando, de lo fuerte que es todo esto para él y para nosotros, verlo que sonreía o que se emociona, pues es una tranquilidad que me da como que...
During the trial, it became apparent that Emma Coronel was not entirely oblivious to El Chapo's violent criminal empire, nor did she ignore it. Instead, when they discussed his illicit activities, it seemed as though they were just like any other married couple discussing their work and lives. According to Rolling Stone magazine, text messages exchanged between El Chapo and Emma, which were presented as evidence in court, depicted a casual conversation between a husband and wife about criminal activities, much like a wife reminding her husband to purchase toilet paper. They even joked about their children following in their father's footsteps. In one text message, El Chapo mentioned giving an AK-47 to their child Kiki, who he deemed fearless so that she could hang with him when she grew up. After the trial, El Chapo was sentenced to life in prison, as well as an additional 30-year sentence, and was ordered to forfeit more than $12 billion. However, despite her husband's leadership role in the Sinaloa cartel, she kept that she had no knowledge of its operations. Emma insisted that the couple only had a small irrigation business.
Cosas así, de las que prefiero no hablar, pero mira, no tengo nada ilícito. Yo sé que a estas alturas el gobierno se ha encargado de checar o verificar si he hecho algo ilícito, si tengo cuentas ilícitas o cosas así. Yo sé que a estas alturas saben perfectamente que no, no estaría aquí sentada así, porque con tanta presión estoy segura que ya han visto todo, estoy transparente, han visto todo de mi vida siempre.
And that her husband, whom she described as a humble man, had been unfairly glorified by the media. Emma's next move was uncertain, as her husband was incarcerated. As the saying goes, any publicity is good publicity, and Emma had become somewhat of a sensation. Despite her infrequent posts, she gained 600,000 Instagram followers, relishing the increased attention. Emma appeared to be embracing her newfound notoriety, and even intended to profit from it. She intended to launch an El Chapo fashion line, which she trademarked. Now, Emma was living a lavish lifestyle filled with luxury and extravagance in New York City. But in 2021, Emma was arrested by U.S. authorities at Dulles International Airport in Virginia, United States. Charged for her connection with the Sinaloa cartel, she was sentenced to a 3-year jail term. She pleaded guilty to multiple offenses, including illegal drug trafficking and conspiracy. She was involved in smuggling cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and marijuana across the U.S. border, and in money laundering. The court directed Emma to surrender almost $1.5 million in assets, and she'll be under supervised probation for 4 years. Emma is currently serving her sentence at the Federal Medical Center Carswell, and her scheduled release date is September 13th, 2023. However, the last time when she left the court, she appeared to be struggling as she cracked under pressure and confessed to her involvement in the crime. Although she was aware of everything that happened, the court deemed her contribution to be minor. Nonetheless, the federal prosecutor, Anthony Nardozzi, acknowledged that Emma swiftly admitted responsibility for her wrongdoing and expressed genuine remorse through a Spanish interpreter. This unexpected shift in behavior is intriguing, and it raises questions about whether Emma's decision to come clean was motivated by her no longer fearing repercussions from El Chapo, who's currently serving a life sentence, or if it was driven by her desire to avoid separation from her children, or if she was simply doing everything in her power to reduce her sentence. It's crucial not to underestimate the risks Emma faced when pleading guilty in this case, as it's been reported that she cooperated with U.S. authorities and possesses valuable information about the cartel's criminal activities that could potentially dismantle the organization. Considering the circumstances, it seems unlikely that she will ever return to Mexico. She can no longer indulge in the luxurious lifestyle that she had become accustomed to since meeting her partner at the age of 17. Instead, she finds herself alone and incarcerated, facing the repercussions of her actions, which may be difficult to accept. Robert Almont, a security consultant from Texas, has informed the New York Post that early release from federal prison is not an option. And unlike in Mexico, prisoners cannot purchase comfortable accommodations or food. The reality check that awaits her will be a harsh one. Only time will tell what life will be like for her upon her release. It remains uncertain how El Chapo feels about her cooperation with U.S. authorities. While he may forgive her, the cartel may not be as forgiving. Nonetheless, for the time being behind bars has provided her with some level of safety.